It is time for GOAT Talk. Listen, man, I have never on my channel ranked who I believe the top mixed martial artists are of all time. We're going to be doing that in this video. I've had quite a few of you ask me, Jake, who are your GOATs, man? You got to make a GOAT list, dog. You got to make a GOAT list. This is for you. And to be honest with you, I had never really thought about who are the GOATs, right? I got a few guys. I'm like, yeah, this guy's really good, but where do they rank top fighters of all time? That's what we're going to be doing in this very video, but I'm doing things, I don't want to say a little bit different, but here's what I'm looking at when we come to GOATs, right? I know everyone looks at, man, yeah, resume here. This dude's undefeated. He's beating this guy, beating that guy. And obviously that is a huge part of who is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, or in order to make this list. Obviously, those are things that matter. But I don't believe that that's everything. Here's what I'm looking for. When I think of GOAT, obviously this is my damn opinion. This is who I think the GOATs are. And please let me know if you guys agree with this list or what you would change, who you would add, all those kinds of things. I'd love to hear from you all on this. But here's what I'm looking at. Championship success, quality of opposition, impact. To me, impact holds such a heavy weight in who you are on this list, right? You can't, just because you have the greatest resume, that might not mean that you're the greatest fighter of all time. I'll just put it that way, right? Longevity. How long have you been in the game, right? Did you span and have a nice long career as a fighter, right? You weren't just here for 2 years and then bounced, right? I'm not saying anybody did that, but you get what I mean. Skill set. What are we looking at here? How good were you? Well, obviously, if you're going to be on this list, you're a hell of a fighter. And then dominance, right? I think dominance is a very important factor when it comes to when we are talking about the best MMA fighters of all time. To me, obviously, resume, those things are important, but I'm factoring in a few things. We will discuss all of that as we go, and I'll explain my rankings for everybody. Now, before we get into that, we got to talk about honorable mentions, because these are fighters that I think, now I don't know where the hell they rank outside of the top 15. I didn't think that much on it, right? And obviously that now we're getting into like really hard territory to rank all these damn fighters, man, because there's so many. But here are fighters that come to name, right? Come to my mind. Look, Fedor Emelianenko, he's someone that obviously is looked at as one of the great what-ifs when it comes to the UFC, because at the end of the day, as great of a heavyweight as he was, because in heavyweight division, if you got power, you got some speed, you got some dynamic abilities, you're not just some fat blob in there, you stand out as a heavyweight. And when you watch Fedor fight, he clearly was not a normal heavyweight whatsoever. Very, very skilled. But at the end of the day, you're going to be graded on the UFC scale. That's the reality. And that's why you see a lot of these fighters from these other promotions come over to the UFC, even if it's later in their career, because that is ultimately how you are going to be judged based on your career, right? And I feel like he was a great what if. Unbelievable fighter, super skilled, can't have him in the top 15. We never got to see that part of his career unfold, unfortunately. Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. Now, I believe that he has been passed by Merab Dvalishvili, but also I think that guys like Petr Yan, guys like maybe even Aljamain Sterling, they're names that could be ahead of Dom Cruz at this point. And listen, I know Cruz, he's had an unbelievable legacy, you know, the footwork, the movement. He was kind of a guy before his time, right? Coming over from the WEC, the rivalries with Uriah Faber, there's no question that Cruz is a great fighter. But I just think that this new generation that we're seeing is quite far ahead compared to Dominick Cruz. And DDP, listen, I know that this one may raise some eyebrows. Whoa, DDP, Drickus. This guy wins fights by accident, man. This guy looks like he's fighting on some damn roller skates. By the way, this guy's undefeated in the UFC. And not only that, we are seeing him improve with every single fight. He's beaten Israel Adesanya, submitted him, the only guy to ever do that. Beat Sean Strickland twice. The first one, yeah, it was close. Still thought he won. Second time, he said, man, I'm way better than this dude. Goes out there and beats the brakes off of Sean Strickland in a rematch. And he's undefeated. Beat Derek Brunson. Beat Darren Till. And look, I know that those aren't like the whoa, wow me type of wins, but this guy is consistently improving, and he's still got a lot of fight left in his career. He's got a big fight with Hamzat coming up. He's got some huge names that are dangerous fighters in the middleweight division. And I feel like if he could beat these guys, man, this dude may actually end up on the GOAT list at some point. Going to be really hard to do considering he's got guys like Hamzat, Imavov, Kyle Bahalio. We'll see how it plays out. But someone that I am thinking about when it comes to a GOAT list, man. I just think DDP is super underrated. Then we have Petr Yan. Petr Yan is a great resume, super underrated, and I feel like if it wasn't for that illegal knee against Aljamain Sterling, we may be talking about a very different career when it comes to Yan. Now, I don't believe that he ever beats Merab. I think Merab probably beats him 10 out of 10 times, right? I mean, because we see Petr Yan, as much as we love this guy, when's the last time we've seen Jan really knock someone out, right? He's an artist, right? He goes in there. It's like we don't even feel like we're watching fighting when Jan fights. It's like we pull up to the art gallery. We got Picasso up in there, man, dipping his paintbrush, going like this up and down. We're like, damn, look at that stroke, dog. Look at the wrist action. Look at, the blue, the red, the yellow, green, right? Like that's what it feels like we're watching Jan. Technical wizard, super good everywhere. All-time great skill set for sure. Top 15 all-time skill set without question. But in terms of resume, right now I can't have him there. But I'm hoping one day I can put Petr Yan in my top 15. Dustin Poirier, one of the greatest fighters to never win a UFC championship. Obviously, he won interim lightweight gold, but that's not enough, right? But outside of that, I mean, his resume is just murderer's row. I mean, the Eddie Alvarez fights, Gaethje, Max Holloway twice, got the big trilogy coming up, Conor McGregor twice. I mean, you already know about DP. You already know what time it is. One of just the most badass fighters of all time. Got to show Dustin Poirier love. DDP, I get it damn mixed up every time, but you get the point. Dustin Poirier, honorable mention. Izzy Adesanya, widely looked at as one of, if not the greatest middleweight of all time. I still don't believe he's the greatest middleweight of all time, right? I know he's got some great wins, went on a really great run, and he was doing things that I think were incredibly underrated, maybe aren't appreciated. I feel like people are now, considering how inactive we see fighters and a lot of champions. But Izzy, super active as a champ, man. Felt like he was fighting every other month, which I think he kind of was, right? I mean, he was fighting like 5 times a year, constantly defending the title, and would fight anybody. When Alex Pereira first came into the UFC, KO'd Strickland, a lot of guys would be running. They'd be like, nah, man, he's got to do some more work. Izzy said, no. I know what time it is. I know why this guy's here. This is going to push me. And that helped build Alex Pereira into a massive star. And it also helped Adesanya because he went out there and got, the craziest win of his career in the rematch with that brutal KO. So Izzy, definitely an honorable mention, but I don't think he's top 15 of all time, considering what has happened recently. Losing to DDP, getting beaten by Sean Strickland, and then getting KO'd by the new gen of Nasruddin Imavov and Conor McGregor. Listen, I know a lot of people don't like Conor McGregor. I've been pretty vocal that I like his fighting style, but in terms of the person, we've clearly seen this guy go in the different direction throughout his career, right? He was a guy that kind of just talked trash, would go in there, do his thing, and Conor McGregor I'm not a big fan of the guy, but you can't deny what he did for the sport. He's done a lot of amazing things at featherweight. He was stylistically and on his run in featherweight. I mean, this guy was unstoppable. He was beating everybody, beat Poirier, beat Holloway, and I know those guys were young at the time, but he still was incredibly impressive. He was knocking everybody out, beat Chad Mendez, right? Knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, and that was a prime Aldo. Then he moves up to 55 and beats Eddie Alvarez like we've never seen. Beat Nate Diaz, right? And I know that, blah, 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 but I was up at 170. Right, this guy, Conor back in the day was never afraid of anything. And not to mention, when Box came back, walked into the hardest fight he could possibly take against Khabib. So while I don't like Conor McGregor, I feel like people let that get in the way of recognizing that this guy is definitely, on his run, he was spectacular. He was special, right? So I definitely think that he's someone worth mentioning. And then this guy right here, last but not least for honorable mentions, Alessandro Pantoja. This guy with another win, I'm considering it moving him up not only into the top 15, but the greatest flyweight of all time. There's even an argument, I would take the argument that he still right now could be the greatest flyweight we've ever seen, right? But given he didn't beat Davison Figueiredo, there's been some hiccups here and there. I mean, this guy's constantly improving. Screw the 35 and up curse, right? Because Volkanovski just went out there, showed that it ain't a thing. Merab showed it ain't a thing. And now we have Pantoja going out there and doing the same thing for the lighter weight classes. We all knew about that curse, and it's been broken here in 2025. Pantoja, this guy is spectacular. He has an outstanding resume. He's beaten Brandon Royval. He's beaten Brandon Moreno a couple times, beaten Kai Kara France. And now if you can beat a guy like Josh Van, I mean, this dude is going out there and just beating everybody. Super dominant fighter, super dominant skill set. Just wanted to show Pantoja some love, and he is knocking on the door. If this is the door, he's like, the knuckles are they're just skimming the door right now, but they're almost there. And once they knock, I'm opening the door and letting them in. But let's get right into the list, man. Starting with number 15, we got the fireman, Stipe Miocic. Now, I'm not going to lie. I almost felt like leaving Stipe off of this list. And then I was like, man, that's mad disrespectful. So that is the reason I have Stipe at number 15, is he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Right, and I know he lost to Jon Jones, but Stipe was way over the hill at that point, man. Old man Stipe hadn't fought in, 4 years? I mean, give me a break, dude. Give me a break. He was in decent shape for that fight against Jon. It wasn't like he was out of shape. He was landing some decent shots on the chin of Jones, but come on, man, that wasn't Stipe in his prime, right? So I feel like people are kind of have that image in their mind, which maybe I did, and that's why I was kind of like, I'm overlooking Stipe, but 4 heavyweight title defenses, that's the most ever in UFC history, right? So that's obviously means something. This is history. Stipe is clearly looked at as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Spell Cormier wrong, but beat Daniel Cormier twice. Cormier. Beat him twice. Beat Francis Ngannou the first time they met. Obviously got folded like a lawn chair in the center of the octagon in the rematch, and that was the last time we saw him. I didn't think we'd ever see Stipe again, but still came back against Jones, beat Junior Dos Santos, beat Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum, Andrei Arlovski, Mark Hunt. Listen, I know it's not the most wow me resume, but come on, when do you have a wow me resume at heavyweight? It's hard to do, but these heavyweights back then at their times, I mean, they were more skilled than most of the ranked guys we have in the heavyweight division. Stipe was running through these guys. One of the best boxers we've seen in heavyweight division history. He had good power, good wrestling, good takedown defense, and the 2 wins over Daniel Cormier, we know DC was the lighter guy. Coming up, had a little bit of a speed advantage, had an outstanding wrestling pedigree. Stipe got starched in the first one, which that caught me by surprise. Right? Sort of. Right? I feel like I thought Cormier was going to win the fight, but I didn't think it would go down like that. But still, Stipe Miocic still probably is the greatest heavyweight of all time. Most ever title defenses. These wins are very impressive, especially beating Cormier twice, man. Right? And then the Francis Ngannou win at the time, that was huge. Right? Francis, no one wanted to fight him. Everyone was terrified. Right? We were all terrified at staring at the screen to watch Ngannou because it was almost felt like you were watching a horror movie. Felt like you were watching Saul. You're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Right? You're like the medics are on standby, right? Because that's how scary an Ngannou fight was at the time. People don't remember how intimidating Ngannou was. Dana White's up there. Yeah, back when Dana actually liked Ngannou, before Ngannou started to want to go do his own thing. Francis Ngannou, hardest pound-for-pound puncher of all time. It's like getting hit by a Ford Escort going, whatever, full speed. It was a sledgehammer swung from overhead, whatever it was. Francis Ngannou was devastating. And then all these guys back in the day, man, when Stipe was beating them, they were good fighters. Very good fighters. We know Overeem, well-rounded out his skill set, good kickboxer. I think that he's got a very, very solid resume for the heavyweight division. I got Stipe at number 15. Got to show the man some love. Plus, just an awesome dude as well. Number 14, I have Jose Aldo. No question, Jose Aldo is one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time, and he's had a super extensive career, right? 9 title defenses overall, and 2 of them in the WEC, which I know that that's not the UFC, but before, the UFC, all that kind of stuff, Strikeforce, WEC, I find all that stuff very impressive because essentially Strikeforce and WEC, they had a lot of, super talented fighters that ended up being in the UFC anyway, right? Because of the mergers and all that kind of stuff. So, but he beat Chad Mendes twice. We know Chad Mendes back in the day, powerhouse, good wrestling, good ground and pound. Aldo beat him twice. And we all know Jose, he has maybe the greatest takedown defense in UFC history. It's almost damn near impossible to take this guy down unless he's tired, right, towards the end of his career here against Ayman Zahabi. I mean, Aldo basically had brick wall takedown defense. Merab, out of all people, was struggling beyond belief to take Aldo down. That alone tells you how good of a takedown artist against the takedowns Jose Aldo is. Beat Uriah Faber, beat Zombie, beat Frankie Edgar twice, and that wasn't just like old man Frankie Edgar who's kind of bobbing and weaving. It's like, I'm just going to throw a knee up in the middle, and knock his ass out. No, that wasn't that Frankie Edgar. That was, improved boxing, working with Mark Henry, good wrestling, good pace, good cardio. That was a solid Frankie Edgar, right? And then these wins here, right? And this is what made Aldo has made him so great to me is how he spanned over so many years into these new generations of talent, right? Yeah, you got Kenny Florian in there, K-Flow, but, going out there, beating Jonathan Martinez after taking a couple boxing matches, come back. I told you guys, I was like, man, Jose Aldo, his boxing's gotten even better. He was a guy that was known for his kicks, more of his Muay Thai style, stopping the takedowns. As soon as his boxing got better, I'm like, it's a wrap. Leg kick spammer, Jonathan Martinez, it's a wrap. Aldo's going to beat him. He beat Rob Font, beat Chito Vera. That was impressive. Considering how long he has been so damn good and gotten better throughout his career, he's obviously someone that should be in the top 15. And considering the amount of title defenses, his dominance back in the day, Jose Aldo, spectacular fighter without question. Next, number 13, we got the Spider Anderson Silva. And I still... maybe it's delusional, maybe it's not fair, I don't know, but I still look at Anderson as the GOAT middleweight. And I feel like if Izzy, maybe if he didn't lose a couple of these fights recently, maybe I would feel different. I don't know. But, 16 win streak, 16-fight win streak, 10 title defenses, Chael Sonnen twice, Rich Franklin, Forrest Griffin, Dan Henderson. And, when you hear the names, you're like, like Adesanya's beaten more big-name guys. But you got to remember back at the time. Dan Henderson, that mean Ooga Booga windmill right hand, that could put anybody out. Forrest Griffin back at the time, Rich Franklin, Chael, right? And I know Chael gets on a lot of people's nerves, but he was kind of a puzzle, right? Because Anderson Silva, obviously one of the most innovative fighters we've seen in UFC history. The Matrix, it was almost like Izzy before Izzy, right? And that's what made the Adesanya versus Silva fight so fun is, Silva, was Adesanya was a big fan of him, all those kinds of things. That was a fun fight. But it was still an older Silva. And towards the end of his career, obviously ran into some trouble. He should have stopped fighting in MMA at least a long time ago. Goes over to boxing, wins. I mean, very, very impressive stuff against Julio Cesar Chavez or whatever, right? Anderson Silva's a special talent. What he was able to do, the win streak, the amount of title defenses, setting records. Obviously, the names, especially nowadays, it doesn't look as great. But at the time, these guys were good, man. They were very good. Chael was a hard matchup for Anderson back in the day. Had the strong wrestling base, was a strong guy, good cardio, right? Could get in your face, make it ugly, talked a lot of shit, got you riled up. And the comeback from Anderson Silva to pull off that submission, right? So I feel like when you look at Anderson Silva, countering instincts, has the resume, has the win streak, has the defenses, and from the skills that this guy brought to the table back in the day, he was literally before his time. And I feel like Anderson Silva will always be one of the most special fighters in UFC history, for sure. Got him at number 13. Number 12, I have Alex Pereira. Listen, I know a lot of people, they love to rip on Alex now. It feels like that's the cool thing to do. Hate on Poatan. Hate on, one of the most entertaining fighters we've had in UFC history. And I'm a fan of Alex Pereira. I'm a fan of Magomed Ankalaev. That's why I wanted that fight to happen, because I believe that it was best on best. And we saw a very competitive fight, but he lost his title. Right, so I think that we're probably going to get the rematch. That's going to tell us a lot about Alex Pereira, and that could be a huge needle mover in terms of legacy GOAT status for Alex Pereira if he could beat Magomed Ankalaev in a rematch. And then if he goes to heavyweight and, beats someone like Aspinall, I mean, that stuff would do wonders, obviously, for his resume. But 3 title defenses, right? 2 belts, obviously, speed ran through middleweight, beat Israel Adesanya, was losing that fight, basically kind of getting just picked apart the whole time, right? Was landing some good calf kicks, things were adding up, but then he chased him down, haunted him with that left hook, the left hook from the past, came back, haunted Izzy yet again, and then in the rematch, Alex Pereira was doing fantastic until he got baited in, lack of defense, and got caught by Israel Adesanya. However, this man's been very impressive, man. You can say whatever you want about this guy. He beat Adesanya, beat Yuri Prochazka twice, and Yuri's basically been unstoppable. Outside of losing to Poatan, Yuri beats everybody else. That's what we've seen so far. I don't think Yuri beats Ankalaev, but he's beaten everybody else, right? Beat Jan Blachowicz, one of who I think is definitely a top light heavyweight of all time. And I know that was a super close fight. People thought Jan won that fight, but still, we had never seen Alex Pereira at light heavyweight. That was his first time up at the weight class. Jan Blachowicz, super well-rounded, powerful, had really good grappling, was probably the best grappler Alex Pereira had ever faced. Big step up in competition as far as I'm concerned when it came to the overall skills, was able to win. Went in there against what now, we're seeing Jamal Hill's not as good as what a lot of people thought, but Khalil Roundtree, I was calling this dude the Dak Prescott of the light heavyweight division. Empty calorie stats. Fourth quarter, 3,000 yards, but you're down by 40 in the fourth, right? That was Khalil. He's beating a bunch of who? Who are you beating? But we're clearly seeing Khalil Roundtree. We know he's got good Muay Thai. He's really, really found his groove. He's dangerous. I feel like that's a good win. He was getting outstruck, came back, showed us what he's about, and then goes out there and starches Sean Strickland. You got to remember, Strickland's been a hard puzzle in the middleweight division. Now that he's got a bunch of fame, now he's a big name, it feels like we've seen more of a hesitant Strickland. But before, Strickland in the Apex against Nasruddin Imavov, against Abus Magomedov, he's getting in those dudes' faces. He wasn't afraid. Going in there and kind of dancing around against Cannonier. Yeah, he lost, but Strickland, he's a hard puzzle. He's got a good jab, really, really good defense. Defends against kicks really well. Pereira easily knocked him out. So I think that that's an underrated win, right? And I don't like Sean Strickland. I think he's annoying and all those kinds of things, but he's still a good fighter. And so for Alex Pereira to go out there and starch him like that, that was incredibly impressive. Then, number 11, we have Max Holloway. One of the most beloved fighters in UFC history, one of the best strikers, one of the best boxers, we get it all. Max Holloway, just sensational talent, right? He is a guy that just, I feel like he set the record for most significant strikes. I don't know what records this man has. I just know that he is unbelievable. And we've seen several wow me performances from Max Holloway. And he also has 3 title defenses, right? I threw BMF belt on here just, because it's an accolade. But come on, man. Like, we all know that that's just kind of a fancy title for an excuse to headline a card and an excuse for a belt to be on the line. Right, but we know when those fights are on the line, we're going to get a scrap. It's basically going to be a striker's delight kind of matchup, so it's still an accolade, right? I don't think it weighs much, but still an accolade. Beat Jose Aldo twice. Very, very impressive. Dominated Aldo twice, basically, right? Very impressive. Moves up to 155 at 300. Dominates Justin Gaethje. Was put on a masterclass before he KO'd him when they went full Ooga Booga the last 10 seconds. Gaethje answered the Ooga Booga call, he's basically King Ooga Booga. And Max out Ooga Booga'd Gaethje and knocked his ass out. Very impressive win. Outside of the knockout, he was dominating, right? So that was that was a great win. Beat the brakes off Brian Ortega, was teaching him how to defend in a title fight. Doesn't get much more disrespectful than that. Like, respectful in the sense of Max is just a cool dude, but he was beating Ortega's ass that bad. Remember, Ortega was a killer at the time, right? Went out there, beat Calvin Kattar, right? I'm varsity, he's the freshman or whatever that narrative was for Kattar. Kattar was riding high. People were looking at Kattar as, wow, this dude, man, hey, he's got a good one too. His boxing's next level. One of the best boxers in the UFC, dog. It's going to outbox Holloway. Remember all those conversations? Max Holloway said, yeah, just kidding. I'm going to put on one of the greatest performances we've ever seen in UFC history and just beat the shit out of Calvin Kattar for, 25 minutes? And I couldn't believe he didn't get Calvin Kattar out of there, which just shows you how tough Kattar is. I don't even think Kattar's ever been finished, right? So Holloway put an absolute beating on him. Kattar was very good at the time. Arnold Allen, that was a great win. Very, very good win. This is the more nuanced style of Holloway. Very elusive, switching stances, and Arnold Allen is a world-class fighter. I know he's not a champion. I know he's not like super elite for the weight class, but he's super talented, man. Super, super good. Good power, good boxing, good kickboxing, well-rounded skill set, well-coached. That was a great win. Beat Yair Rodriguez. Super dangerous, long, rangy, lanky guy for the weight class with super devastating kicks. Beat him. Went to war with him in the Apex. What a disgrace, right? I mean, that fight should have had an audience. Been in a big crowd, whatever. Beat Frankie Edgar, right? And then, Frankie Edgar, it felt like, towards the end of his career, it was like, okay, everybody's beating Frankie Edgar. But when Holloway beat him, it was a good time to beat Frankie Edgar. So Max Holloway, one of the best strikers in UFC history, has a very good resume. I got him at number 11. Number 10, we got Demetrius Johnson. I believe Mighty Mouse is, I think he just might be the most talented mixed martial artist of all time. In terms of no holes in his game, really. Good boxing, good kickboxing, good knees, good elbows, unbelievable grappling, great submission skills. Like, DJ literally could do everything. Can switch stances. Like, name me one thing that DJ can't do. He could do everything. So in that aspect, he's goated. But the problem is the resume, it's not looking good. It isn't. 11 title defenses, it's very impressive. Wow me, right? Leaves the UFC. We know about the unbelievable trade. The UFC was out there playing fantasy football, and they traded Ben Askren for DJ, and they got ripped off, right? And at the time, people were like, wow, oh man, Ben Askren, dominant wrestler. And, I hope also as well, it's good to see, I've heard reports Ben Askren is doing much better. That was a very scary situation. Ben Askren is an awesome dude. All those things, wish him well. Just saying, in terms of the video, come on, Ben Askren, he was super overrated at the time. Basically, was getting the shit beat out of him by Robbie Lawler. We get all that. But the point is that wasn't a great trade. But it was kind of the UFC and Mighty Mouse where it ends, right? Mighty Mouse is a spectacular fighter, but the resume is not that great. He beat Henry Cejudo. You could argue and say that he did win the rematch. So he technically could have 2 wins over Cejudo, which at the time, that was a great win over Cejudo. Beat Benavidez. Beat Adriano Moraes twice outside the UFC over in 1, which Adriano Moraes, again, we're seeing the flyweight division is actually really starting to heat up now, and we know we got to know better than being like, well, if Adriano was in the UFC, he'd be a top 5 guy. We don't know that because what we're seeing now is these guys that are, oh man, he's a champ in PFL, Bellator. This guy's the real deal, man. Patchy Mix is getting outstruck and beaten to shreds by Mario Bautista. Yair Rodriguez is decimating Patricio Pitbull, so not so fast. And Moraes beat Mighty Mouse, right? And then Mighty Mouse came back, beat him twice, so kind of avenged that, obviously, getting the 2-peat. Kyoji Horiguchi, that was a good win back in the day. That karate style, Kyoji's a good fighter. Beat John Dodson twice. It was good at the time. Just a weak resume in terms of the victories. But again, it's not really his fault, right? So that's why I still have him in the top 10. It's not Demetrius Johnson's fault, man. It's not his fault, but this is the reality. If he was fighting in the modern-day flyweight division and he was beating all these guys and doing what Pantoja's essentially doing, he would unquestionably be a top 5 GOAT, in my opinion. You could even possibly have him as the GOAT. If he was beating guys like Moreno, guys like Pantoja, guys like Royval, he was fighting Joshua Van coming up, I could see Mighty Mouse being the GOAT, for sure. But given how weak this resume is, I got to have it at 10, man. I can't go any higher than that. But still, one of my favorite fighters of all time, skill-wise. I think skill for skill, he is the GOAT, in my opinion. But in terms of resume and factoring on all these other things, I feel like that'd be crazy to have him as the ultimate number 1 fighter of all time. Next, number 9, we got Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman, to me, was a guy that was outside the top 10 before he went in there and beat Joaquin Buckley. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I've said before that I feel like, listen, it just feels like Usman's resume is just a little bit overrated. But again, it's not the guy's fault, right? And I feel like at times maybe I'm having a little bit of fun in my videos and I say some things. Listen, at the end of the day, beating Tyron Woodley when he did in completely dominant fashion to win the belt, completely impressive. Colby Covington, back in his prime, cardio machine, decent striking, doesn't have the power to hurt anybody, but still, he's got the power, the power to push forward, weaponize his cardio, had a very unique skill set. Usman beat him twice, right? And they were close fights, right? He dropped him in the first one, was able to get the stoppage. We had some controversy, which, other than Usman breaking his damn jaw, I'm not quite sure what the hell the controversy was, right? I think it was like a low blow that wasn't a low blow, or I don't know. And then that's why Covington was calling him Mark Not So Goddard. Then in the rematch, it was close again, but Usman showed levels to me. Beat Jorge Masvidal twice. One, it was on short notice for Jorge, but still, Kamaru took him on short notice. People forget about that. Yeah, it was short notice for Jorge, but the fighter that's already preparing, they got to switch their whole game plan. So that was impressive because at the time, Masvidal, he was like the biggest name in the sport at that time. Fresh off the BMF title win over Diaz. KOing Darren Till, flying knee KO, like all those kinds of things. Masvidal was a massive star at the time. That was a big win. Then Masvidal sat out, waited, and then we saw Usman starch him with a brutal right hand. That was fantastic. Right? He was a pound-for-pound top guy in the sport for forever, man. Knocked out Gilbert Burns, a prime Gilbert Burns. Beautiful jab. His striking, right? He was a guy that was basically only a wrestler, and his striking got so much better throughout his career, right? I know he had Henry Hooft in his corner, but it feels like whenever he went, with Trevor Whitman, it just unlocked this new, found, confidence when it came to the boxing. Beat RDA, very impressive. But the Joaquin Buckley win, to me, I honestly think it might be more impressive than all of these. And I know that might be a hot take, but here's the deal, man. Like, Buckley was on a crazy win streak. Coming down from 185 to 170, this was a guy that the UFC was clearly pushing, right? It felt like Usman was just about to get, I don't know, I didn't think he was going to get probably KO'd necessarily, but he was going to get picked apart. Buckley was going to be in there peekabooing around, throwing these big, powerful, ooga-booga shots. He's going to put it on the old man, the guy with no knees. And then Usman goes out there and pulls out a savvy performance, pulls out the wrestling, and dominates Joaquin Buckley over the course of 5 rounds. Buckley fought a good 5th round, but still, that was impressive to take 2 years away, go tooth and nail with Khamzat Chimaev to where it was a super close fight. Have all this on top of coming back and showing people that, this new dude who's beating everybody, he's got power, he's dangerous, he doesn't have shit on me. That's a yeah, I see you kind of moment. Kamaru Usman, inside the top 10 greatest fighters of all time. I got Usman at 9. Dude's an absolute savage. Number 8, we have Merab Dvalishvili. Look, this is a guy that I don't even think I would have had on my top 15 until recently. I've been critical of Merab. I think he's annoying. I'm not a huge fan of Merab, but what I will say is I recognize the talents that this man possesses. He has alien-like cardio. He's developing his striking. He's improving every single time out, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with taking his game to the next level, working with Coach John Wood, and, he's got the Longo team and all those kinds of things. Come on, Aljo. You feeling comfortable, Merab? You feeling comfortable, Merab? But come on, man. Take your time, Merab. Take your time. Listen, Merab's been great, man. He's been great. He beat Petr Yan, dominated him, 50-45. Beat Umar Nurmagomedov, 2 of my favorite guys in the weight class. Beat them both. Maybe that's why I don't like the guy. 50-45 in Yan is so disrespectful, dude. It's one of the most disrespectful things you could do in the sport. Beats Jose Aldo. It was a snoozer, but still, that has to do with the takedown defense of Aldo. Beat Henry Cejudo. Picked him up, carried him around like a baby. Got rocked early, but still, dominated Cejudo. Dominated Jan. 50-45ing one of the most talented MMA fighters we've ever seen in Petr Yan. Doesn't get any more special than that, to be honest. Right? Beat Sean O'Malley twice. A guy that was looked at, and I still think is one of the most talented strikers, one of the best strikers in the UFC for sure. Beat him twice. Outstruck him in the second fight, and then submitted him. Showing that next level of evolution in his game. Evolving at, 35, 36 years of age. 2 title defenses now. And that Umar fight, I know it was close. A lot of people thought Umar, could have won. It was very, very close. Umar broke his hand, whatever, in the fight. Either way, man, it was razor close. It was a fantastic fight. He was landing good shots. Umar was landing good shots. It's one of the greatest bantamweights fights of all time. 2 title defenses. That Umar win is going to age very well. Hopefully we get the rematch one day. Merab, to me, definitely a top 10 fighter. He's the greatest bantamweight of all time at this point. I think that gets you into the top 10. Number 7, I have Alexander Volkanovski. Volk. One of my favorite fighters to watch of all time. 5 title defenses, beat Max Holloway 3 times. The second one, man, I'm not going to lie, I thought Max won that. I thought Max won that fight, but either way, on paper, it's 3 wins. The first one, Volk won. Second one, I thought Max won. It was super close either way. And then third, it wasn't close at all. It was a one-sided ass whooping. It was honestly one of the most shocking performances in UFC history. I did not expect Volk to just dominate Holloway like that. I thought he would win, but not like that. Not like that at all. Right? We saw a fired up Max Holloway, guy with a point to prove, trying to right his wrong, felt like he actually won the second fight. Unbelievable performance by Volk. Outstanding striking, very good speed, great jab, good footwork, super well-rounded, physically strong for the weight class. Beat Jose Aldo. That was a great win, right? Back then, Korean Zombie, Chad Mendes, Brian Ortega. I mean, this guy's spectacular. One of the most talented fighters overall that we've ever seen. But in terms of the resume, he's got a good resume. Super active champion, much like Adesanya. Felt like he was defending the title every other month. Beat Yair Rodriguez as well. Dominated Yair. Beat the hell out of him. Beat Diego Lopez. Those are 2 things I should have added on here, but you know what I mean? Unbelievable wins. Beating guys of the new generation, guys of the old, guys somewhere in between. Very, very special what Volkanovski has done. Now, I would have him higher if he was able to win the lightweight title. The problem, he's facing one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in Islam Makhachev. So I feel like that's something you have to take into account. He's definitely a top 10 fighter of all time. Could he be higher? Sure, but given the way that I see things right now, coming back and beating Diego the way he did, that is incredibly impressive. And if he can go out there and add a couple more wins and defenses, it's going to be hard to say that this guy's not going to be top 5 of all time at some point. But right now, I got him at number 7. Next, I have Ilia Topuria at number 6. Now, I know that this is one that people are going to be like, come on, man, he's got to be in the top 5. Ilia Topuria, number 1, dog. You said he was the most devastating and dangerous fighter of all time, Jake. He's got to be top 5. He's got to be number 1. He's got to be number 1. He can't be number 1, man. Not yet. Maybe one day. I don't have my doubts. Think if this guy hangs around, he just might be the greatest fighter of all time, right? I definitely see him, number 1, number 2 at some point. If he stays around and keeps doing what he's doing, for sure. But the reality is he's got 1 title defense. And it was an impressive one. Knocked out Max Holloway. Knocked out the 2 greatest featherweights of all time. 2 of them, right? We got, Aldo, Volkanovski. Volkanovski and Holloway are the 2. Knocked them both out. Nobody's ever KO'd Max. He did it. Nobody KO'd Volk at 45. He did. I understand the quick turnaround after the Islam fight. Don't take that away from Ilia. Volk was looking great. That right hand knocks out anybody, clearly. And I've been telling you that. 45, 55, 70, 85, 205, heavyweight. Topuria knocks everybody out with that right hand. Seriously. He does. Very impressive. Beat Charles Oliveira at UFC 317 for International Fight Week. Starched him with a right hand in the first round. One of the most prolific finisher in UFC history. Ilia KO'd the guy with 1 shot. Yusuf Salau, I feel like that's a win that's going to age very well. That's a guy that looks like a problem. Going out there, everybody hates this guy right now because, he goes out there, runs away from Calvin Kattar, picks and pokes from the outside, but hey, the guy's fast. It's hard to get a hold of. It's like, chasing a cat. In the room, you got to take it to the vet. You got to get it in, in its cage and it's running all over. Like, you can't get a hold of it. That was Yusuf Salau. Ilia took that fight on short notice, if I'm not mistaken, and he won. He got tired, faced some adversity, mixed into grappling, had Yusuf in some submission danger. Super well-rounded fighter, man. Best boxer in UFC history. most devastating power puncher, pound for pound in UFC history, incredibly well-rounded skill set. But given what we've seen so far, and obviously 2 belts, won the featherweight title, defended it, now won the 55 title, I expect this guy to be in the top 3 for sure by the time it's all said and done. But right now, don't go off of recency bias. Don't go off of recency bias, because here's the thing. I know that those 3 wins are spectacular. Volk, Max, and Charles. But that's 3 wins. That's 3 wins. And I know he's been, what he did to Emmett, the boxing masterclass. Him being number 6, I think is warranted given the fact that he did beat Max, he did beat Volk. Now that he beat Charles, he's definitely towards the top at this point. But like I said, at some point, I expect this guy to be in the top 3 without question. Number 5, I have Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, this is one that I feel like might be controversial, right? Because a lot of people, they're like, no, Khabib, he's not in the GOAT conversation, or he's number 1, or he's number 2, number 3, whatever. I think Khabib is top 5 all time, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. 3 title defenses, 29-0, undefeated. I think he only lost 1 round, which I think was round number 3 to Conor McGregor, which, like I said, that was an underrated performance by McGregor because he came back into MMA, took the hardest fight he could possibly have, and we knew that Khabib was probably going to dominate him, but I thought McGregor put up a better fight than what I was expecting. I thought Khabib was going to get him out of there early. Beat Dustin Poirier, a prime Poirier. Beat Justin Gaethje. Hard hitters. These are hard hitters, man. Beat RDA. Beat Edson Barboza. Prime Barboza. Dominated him. Right? No, it looked like Edson Barboza. I will never get those images. It's like Halloween haunting me of Edson just being like, help me, man. When Khabib Nurmagomedov was suffocating him with pressure. Just dominating him. And there was nothing Edson could do. That is domination. And he's the most dominant fighter of all time. That's why, to me, he's in the top 5, right? Yeah, he doesn't have all the title defenses. He, didn't have this, he doesn't have this crazy extensive resume when it comes to the amount of, huge name wins that he has. The guy was undefeated, man. One of the very few that could say that he was an undefeated, long-time mixed martial artist. And obviously, I think Khabib's an awesome person. He coaches. He's got a great team, great camp. I love what they're doing. The legacy carrying on what Abdulmanap had started. I love all of it. With Javier Mendez, all those different things, I factor in the impact that Khabib has had. He's inspired so many people. Most dominant fighter in UFC history. To me, that deserves for you to get into the top 5. We've never seen a grappler like him. The pressure, the pace, the submission abilities. His striking, actually, I felt like was underrated. It was awful early in his career. I won't lie about that. But it got better. His boxing got better. Started working with Javier Mendez. Tightened it up. Good head movement. Good power. Walked down Gaethje like Gaethje didn't have any power. Walked down Poirier like he didn't have any power. I mean, impressive stuff by Khabib, man. Super dominant. That's why I got him in the top 5. One of the most dominant, if not the most dominant fighter of all time. Got to be top 5 in my opinion. Next, number 4. We have Islam Makhachev. I think that Islam, I'm expecting at one point, that's why I have at the bottom here, dancing in goat range. What's that song that they play every UFC broadcast? Dancing in the moonlight. Which I've said before, that's Dana White and the Matchmakers' new garage band that they started. And that's why they keep playing that damn song over and over again. But I'm going to start singing, dancing in goat range. That's Islam Makhachev. This is a guy that has some massive things ahead of him that I believe could make him the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter, not only because he already is, but just make him the best fighter we've ever seen. And that would be going up beating Jack Della Maddalena. And then if we get that super fight with Ilia Topuria, he beats those two, it's undeniable. He beats Jack, you could throw him in there. He beats Ilia and Jack? Jack? Ilia? Beats those guys, man? This is the number one. That'll be the number 1 fighter we've ever seen. 4 title defenses. He's pursuing another, obviously, against JDM. Hopefully they get that on at the end of 2025 in MSG. Beat Arman Sarukian, right? And I feel like if we got the Arman rematch, that was Arman's fault. That's not Islam's fault. So he had to beat Renato Moicano, which not a bad win, not a great win. Pretty good win. Not Islam's fault. That was supposed to be Arman Sarukian. So you can't hold that against him. Can't hold it against him. We've seen Moicano. We saw him beat the shit out of Benoit Saint-Denis, a guy a lot of people were high on. I wasn't high on Saint-Denis, but still. Moicano's not a bad win. Beat Arman Sarukian. I think he would beat him in a rematch, which that would do even more for his legacy. So Arman messed that up. But he beat Charles Oliveira, submitted him when Charles was going on that crazy run. The newfound Charles at lightweight, dangerous Muay Thai, elite submission skills. Islam didn't care. Dropped him, subbed him. Right? Beat Dustin Poirier. Got into an absolute war with him. Battled some controversy coming into the fight in terms of his health, right? I think he have staph or something coming into that. Didn't care. Went out there bald. Showed that he was a dog, which to me, that even adds more to him being in the top 5 pound for pound, top fighter of all time. Super, super skilled. Better striker, than Khabib for sure. In terms of the dominance, not the same. As good of a grappler as Khabib, no. But he's a complete mixed martial artist. He's good everywhere. Beat Dan Hooker. People just glaze over that win like it's nothing. That was a great win. Beat Alexander Volkanovski twice. The first one, tooth and nail. Really, really close fight. Dangerous fight. Hard fight. That was when Volk was on top of the sport basically at the time. Big win for Islam. The rematch, short notice for Volk. But still, you took the fight, you showed up, head kicked him, made it look easy. And yeah, I get it. Volk was a little out of shape, and I understand why people would criticize that. But he beat him the first time, and it was a close fight. It was a close fight, but we clearly saw how good Islam is. Beat Drew Dober, beat Bobby Green. Pretty solid resume. Those are some big names on there. Some of the most dangerous guys that we've seen in lightweight history. Like I said, dancing in GOAT range. Beats JDM. He's top of the food chain. He goes out there and beats Ilia as well. Like I said this before. Beating Ilia Topuria will mean more in the long run for Islam. If you would have just fought him and beat him, going to see what Ilia would go on and do, it would be the best win on Islam's resume. And now it's clearly showing that eventually if that fight happens, it will probably be the best win on Islam's resume. Also a guy like JDM. Hopefully we get that fight at some point because that would be massive for the legacies of both guys. But if Islam beats JDM, you throw him in the conversation, beats Ilia, he would be the greatest fighter of all time in my opinion. Next, number 3, I got Daniel Cormier. That's right, I got DC. And I know a lot of people, this might shock a lot, but whoa, man, how is DC top 5? How is he top 3? Top 3? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm not kidding. Daniel Cormier, to me, I know a lot of people recognize how good of a commentator, good of a personality, all those things of Daniel Cormier are. I believe that he just might be the most underrated guy, like one of the most underrated and underappreciated champions in UFC history. Maybe I'm just like seeing the wrong comments, seeing the wrong stuff. This guy is a top 5 fighter in my opinion, dude. Without question all time. 3 light heavyweight defenses. 1 heavyweight defense. Won the belt. Remember, knocked out Stipe Miocic? I thought he was going to win that fight, but not that easily. Starched him with a right hand in the clinch. Goes out there, dominates Derek Lewis to defend. Had 2 belts, light heavyweight, was the Strikeforce champ, before the whole merger deal. Beat Rumble Johnson twice, RIP. What a legend. What a great person Rumble is, man. Super dangerous, big, powerful, super athletic guy. Beat him twice. Beat Alexander Gustafsson, one of the most talented strikers in the division at the time. Gustafsson's, one of the all-time most talented light heavyweights we've ever seen. Stipe Miocic, beat him, right? Went up to heavyweight, beat him, lost to him twice, though. Beat Dan Henderson. Remember at the time, like I said, Dan Henderson, good wrestler, big, powerful, windmill right hand. Beat Anderson Silva. Daniel Cormier was dominant outside of losing to Stipe, which that was in a different weight class. But at light heavyweight, outside of Jon Jones, he beat everybody else, essentially dominated everybody else. So if there was no Jon Jones, Jon never existed, Daniel Cormier, he might be the GOAT. He might be one of the GOATs. Well, I have him as one of the GOATs for that reason. Because he was super dominant and just, because he ran into one of the most talented fighters we've ever seen in Jones, a guy that was just, could negate what Cormier did well. Jones is a good wrestler, well-rounded fighter. Like, Cormier, to me, skill-wise, good striking. It developed throughout the years. Some of the most dominating wrestling we've seen in the sport. Would pick people up, high crotch them, dump them on their fucking head. Don't forget how damn good DC was. And not to mention what an awesome dude he is. The impact he's had. He's an ambassador of the sport. Works for the UFC, coaches wrestling, gives back, teaches at AKA, the bond he built with Team Khabib. I love DC, man. One of my all-time favorite people when it comes to MMA. And just overall, I think that his resume, maybe I'm stretching it by saying underrated, but if there was no Jon Jones, he's the greatest light heavyweight of all time. So I think he's second behind Jon Jones. And I think that all that he's done, beating Stipe Miocic, knocking him out, it took Jon a couple rounds to do that. An old, washed out Stipe Miocic. Daniel fought him in his prime. Towards the end, maybe, but still very good. Big wins for Daniel Cormier. That's why I got him at number 3. Number 2, I got Jon Jones. I have Jon Jones at number 2. Now, no one is denying Jon Jones' dominance. No one's denying how special of a talent Jon is. No one's denying that he was the youngest champ in UFC history at 23 years of age. No one's denying the skills, none of that. But when you cheat, and there's constantly a damn problem, there's constantly something, bitching and moaning and, moving events and, taking forever to accept a fight. And it's like, oh, we got a dangerous power puncher. Now Jon doesn't want to fight. He needs this. He needs that. The ducking Aspinall stuff, right? Who knows what's really going into all of it? When I look at the straight resume, Jon Jones just might have the greatest resume in MMA. But it's checkered because, he's popped. He's popped. And I don't like that, right? And I understand Anderson Silva. We got some other guy. I get that. But to me, that can't make you the number one guy of all time. It can't, in my opinion. And I don't even know how many technically defenses this guy has. What is it, 12, 11, 13? I don't fucking know. I just know Jon Jones is undefeated. He's beaten everybody, right? But he lost to Dominic Reyes. I thought he lost that fight. Technically, he didn't on paper, but he did. I thought he lost. Youngest champion in UFC history at 23. Impressive. That record will never be broken. It'll never be broken. I know if Josh Van can go out there and beat Pantoja, which I'm not sure he can, but even at that point, Jon, 23 years of age, Van, I think, is almost going to be 24. We'll never see this again, I don't think, with Jon Jones. Just the new generation, the way that it is now, that's going to be impossible to do. Beat Shogun, I believe it was, to win the title. Beat Alexander Gustafsson twice. And what was so impressive was the first time it was like Jon just seemed like he thought he was just so much, I'm going to walk through him. Came out in the rematch and just, annihilated him. And that's what I always said about Jones. I'm like, how serious is this guy when it comes to his training camps? That's how I felt. I felt like towards the end of his, light heavyweight days, it was like Jon didn't even care. Felt like he maybe wasn't even preparing that serious because we've heard stories. Guys are at the gym all stretched out, ready to go. He just comes walking in after partying all night long and comes in and whips everybody's ass without even warming up. That's the talent that Jon Jones is. Gets in his own way with all the other stuff. Beat Daniel Cormier twice. Super impressive. Super impressive. Beat Cyril Gane. Right, we'll talk about that one in a minute. Beat Rashad Evans, Rampage Jackson, Glover Teixeira. We get it. Ran through everyone in the light heavyweight division, basically. Going up to heavyweight after taking all that time off, beating Cyril Gane as easily as he did and submitting him. And I understand that Gane doesn't have, the best takedown defense. But there were a lot of questions, man. Don't forget. I thought Jones was going to win, but don't forget that a lot of people, they thought Gane was going to be too much. Like, this is a real heavyweight. This guy's got power. He's a good striker. How's Jones going to beat him? Chicken legs. Everything got bigger with Jones. His upper body, his belly, everything got big, but his legs were still this damn tiny, man. Got you, made you look, man. But listen, that's the reality. Jones, super well-rounded fighter. Super talented. But all the shit outside, what he did in the cage was excellent. But at the end of the day, people are going to be like, what he did in the cage? What he did in the cage? Yeah, but he popped. He went in there and competed against DC the second time that way. Right? So, to me, there's an asterisk there. But skill for skill, no one's denying that he's a complete fighter. Super talented. Went through multiple generations of fighter, which to me is one of the most impressive things about Jones. From his young days, middle-aged days, and then towards the end, going out there fighting a guy like Cyril Gane and walking through him like he's not actually a decent fighter, which Gane is a good fighter. That was wildly impressive. To span that long and be as dominant as he was clearly means something. And I criticize Jones a lot, man. I'm not the biggest Jon Jones fan. I recognize his skills and what he's been able to do for sure. But to me, when you have the checkered past, when you pull the stunts that he's pulled, I can't put you at number one. But given how damn good the resume is, got to put him at 2, though. Number 1, I got GSP. I think George St-Pierre, I think he's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. 9 title defenses, 2 titles, right? Went out there, beat Michael Bisping at 185 pounds, had the layoff, came back, walked through Michael Bisping, beat Hughes twice, beat Nick Diaz. And you got to remember, back in the day, prime Nick Diaz, dude, he was one of the most dominant welterweights we've ever seen, I think. Personally, not in terms of like today's game, but back then, Nick Diaz was like unstoppable. Cardio machine, boxing was good, dug to the body, good jiu-jitsu skills. He just had this aura to him. Prime Nick Diaz was a savage. Where you at, George? Beat Matt Serra. Avenge that one. That was big. Getting some get back. That was big to me. Beating BJ Penn at the time. That was big. Beat Jake Shields. Jake Shields was a very good grappler. Still is a good grappler, but you know what I meant at the time. You know, George St-Pierre is super dominant. Not only is he an awesome person, but a great ambassador of the sport, you know, long-lasting legacies, had a tremendous impact. One of the most skilled overall fighters we've ever seen. A guy that kind of had this karate style, Superman punch, could blitz into range. Like, GSP is incredibly well-rounded. We saw him develop this, like, you would have thought that GSP was like this 10-time Olympic level wrestler or something. He developed such a good ground game. And then once he got good at that, everyone was fucked. He was taking everybody down. He could just, whatever you were, and that's what Jon Jones brought to the table, which is why I think him and GSP are the two best of all time. Wherever you were good, these guys would take you to where you weren't because they were that well-rounded. They were always better than you somewhere. That's not something we always see nowadays. That's how good GSP was. That's how good Jon Jones was. Even DC, Khabib, Islam, these guys, man, they're so well-rounded, so skilled. Right? Maybe Khabib a little bit more one-dimensional. But a guy like GSP, man, to me, just an awesome person, amazing fighter, developed his skills throughout his years, 9 title defenses, 2 wins, won 2 belts. Just, to me, an incredible legacy. Incredible legacy, one of the most skilled and talented fighters of all time. Love me some GSP. I got him at number 1. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you agree with this list? What would you change? What would you add? And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I appreciate you all. See you next time.